We continue now at the top of Daf Tesam Beis in Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 9b. The Gemara is in the middle of bringing Rebbe's opinion that when we say if you have a set of witnesses, let's say 3 or 4 witnesses, and one of them turns out to be a karov apostle, one of them turns out to be a relative or disqualified, so by dinei nefashos, by capital cases, we do say that we throw out the entire testimony, we throw out all of the witnesses. But Rebbe says that's only true if they're involved in warning the defendant. However, if, let's say, the person who was disqualified or the person who was a relative wasn't involved in warning the defendant, he didn't essentially make himself into a witness, then he's not counted as a witness and doesn't disqualify the rest, as Rebbe now concludes, because otherwise, ma yasu shnei achem v'echad shero be'echad sheharagas hanefesh. What's going to happen if you have, let's say, 2 brothers and another person who sees somebody kill someone else? So automatically all those witnesses are thrown out because 2 of them are brothers. Of course we're not going to say that. Instead what we'll say is the witnesses that actually warn the person, they're going to be considered the witnesses, and let's say one of those brothers is not part of the warning, so he's not part of the set. And Rashi explains, again, you're going to have 2 brothers, and you'll have another witness who's kosher, and they see someone, they see somebody kill someone else. So again, we're going to say in such a situation, as long as that karov, that relative, was not involved in warning the defendant, so then it's not going to disqualify all the witnesses, and this is going to be relevant, or this is going to be an explanation of our mission as well. The machlokas between Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan as well. Again, there was a machlokas by the case of Motzi Shemra. Do we say that it needs 3 judges or does it need 23 judges? Is it considered a capital case or not? It's exactly the situation. The case is that one of the 3 witnesses who see the adultery as a relative or disqualified. However, that witness that is a disqualified witness, he sees it, but he's quiet. He's not part of the warning. And so that's the machlokes. Rabbi Meir savar la Rabbi Yossi to Amar b'dinei nefashos loshna hisra veloshna shasak edusan b'teilah. Rabbi Meir holds like Rabbi Yossi that when it comes to capital cases, it doesn't matter if he's part of the warning or whether he's quiet. It makes no difference. We throw out the testimony, and therefore we say that it is not considered a capital case, and only 3 judges are required. Rabbanan Sabri, but the Rabbanan hold Kirebi, they hold like Rebbe, as long as he was silent, so you can use the rest of the witnesses, and therefore it will be a situation of the death penalty. It's a capital case, and therefore 23 judges are required. And the Gemara continues with another explanation of the machlokas in the mission of Ibai. Same, if you want, I could say, what happened was, other people were the ones that issued the warning. It was not the witnesses that issued the warning. And according to this, the argument between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim in our Mishnah in terms of whether this is a capital case or not is the same machlokas that we find between Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanan D'Tanan, as we learned in a Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi says, Liolam eino nerag ad sheyu pishnei edav masrim bo. We only say that the person is killed when the actual witnesses are the ones who issue the warning. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, al pishnayim edim, it has to be through the mouth of the 2 witnesses, and so that's the machlokas over here. If someone else is issuing the warning, is it a capital case or not? And the Gemara continues with another explanation of the machlokas Tanoim in the Mishnah of Ibai. Same, if you want, I could say, Kagon de iskachesh bevedikos velo iskachesh bechakiros. The case that the Mishnah is dealing with is where witnesses did come forth with regards to the adultery, again in the situation of Motzi Shemra, but those witnesses, they were contradicted in terms of the bedikos, which essentially are the minor details of their testimony, but they were not contradicted in the chakiros. The chakiros refers to the time and the place. Those are the essential details, and so the question is, do you throw out the testimony in that situation? Is it considered a capital case or not? And according to that, the machlokas in the Mishnah is the same machlokas that we find between Ben Zakkai and the Rabbanan. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Maisa uvadak Ben Zakkai bu'uksei te'enim. There was an incident where Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai examined the testimony in terms of the stems of the figs, and so therefore again that's a machlokas over there, whether that's considered enough to disqualify the witnesses or not. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, Hevi habal edim shazin. So let's say the husband brings witnesses that she committed adultery, that she is liable to the death penalty, but that's also witnesses that are going to lower the amount of the ksuba payment. Vehevi ha'av edim v'hizimim. But then her father comes along and brings other witnesses, and they falsify le'edei habal. They falsify the witnesses that the husband brought, and so now the witnesses that the husband brought, they have to get the punishment of kasher zamam, what they tried to do. But in this situation, they tried to do 2 separate separate things. They tried to have her killed, and they also tried to affect monetarily the amount of the ksuba. And so Rav Yosef says, Eidei Habal and Neherogin, the Eidei Habal, the witnesses that the husband brought who were falsified, they get killed. That's the Kasher Zamam, because they tried to kill her. The Ein Mishalmin Mammon, and they don't pay money, because when you have two possible punishments, the punishment of the death penalty and also a monetary payment, you only get the stricter one, so they are only going to get they are only going to get the death penalty, the stricter of the two punishments. And Rav Yosef continues, Chazar v'hevi habal edim v'hizimum la'edei ha'av. If the husband goes ahead and he brings another set of witnesses that falsify now the witnesses that the father brought, in other words, again, the witnesses that the father brought, they falsified the original witnesses of the husband, but now the husband brings a different set of witnesses to falsify those witnesses of the father. So in that situation, edei ha'av neherogin u'mishalmin mamon. There, the witnesses of the father actually do get both punishments. They get killed and they have to pay money. And the reason for that is mamun lazeh nefashos lazeh, because the money is relevant to one party. They were trying to do that to one party, and in terms of killing, they were trying to get a different party killed. That was referring to the witnesses. As Rashi over here explains, Eidei ha'av neherogin, the reason why the witnesses of the father get killed if they're falsified is because sherotzu larog eidei habal, because they wanted to kill the witnesses, those original witnesses that the husband brought. That's one party that they were trying to affect. But in terms of the money, u'mishalmin mamon, they also have to pay money because they were trying to affect Meya Kesef Labal. They were also trying to make the husband into a Motzi Shemra. They were saying he was saying a false claim against the wife, and he would have been fined 100 Kesef, Shabo L'chayvo K'sheizimu Es Eidav, because when they're trying to falsify his witnesses, they're trying to make him Chayiv money, and so therefore again, Mamun Lazel Labal, the money goes to this party, to the husband, Unefashos Lazel, and then they get killed because of this other party, V'ne'eragin B'shvil Ha'edim, meaning they get killed because of the witnesses, to Kasav Rav Yosef, because Rav Yosef holds Kipater Rachmanim Eschai Benavsho Minat Tashlum. And when do we say that somebody who's liable to the death penalty is exempt from paying? Heichot Demiso Mammon Misham Chad Ka'asu Alei. That's only true if the death penalty and the money is because of one party. But if it's for two separate parties, then they actually are responsible on both levels. Again, they are going to be killed, and they will also have to pay money. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rav Yosef, and Rav Yosef says, Ploni Ravo La'on. So let's say somebody says that so-and-so sodomized him, but it was against his will. He wasn't a willing participant. So Hu V'achar Mitztarfin L'hargo. So this person who's testifying, and let's say somebody else saw it, there's another witness, they can join together as a set of witnesses in order to kill this person for Mishkav Zachar, for being with a man. However, Liritzono, however, if he says that so-and-so sodomized him, but it was willingly, he was a willing participant, so he himself was also part of the sin. So then Rasha, then already he's saying he himself is wicked. VaTorah Amral Tashes Rasha aid, and the Torah says a Rasha cannot be a witness, and therefore he cannot testify in this case if he's saying about himself that he is a Rasha. But the Gemara continues, Rava says it's not true. Adam Karov Eitzel Atzmo, because a person is considered to be a relative with regards to testimony about himself. V'yein Adam Meisam Atzmo Rasha, and a person is not able to make himself a Rasha, and so therefore essentially we can divide up the testimony and say we'll believe the fact that Ploni Ravo, but we're not going to believe the fact that it was Liritzono, and therefore he is allowed to testify. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rava says, and Rashi explains, Ploni Ravo b'mishkav Zachar, again, he's testifying so-and-so sodomized him. We're talking about Mishkav Zachar, a man with a man. Lo'on so al karcha. So if he says that it was by force, so then hu v'achar hanir b'hazeh kosher lo'ed olav. This person who was sodomized can testify against the other person. V'myesh acher imo, if he has another witness with him, nereg harova al piem. So then the person who committed the act, he is going to be killed through their testimony. However, if he says it was willingly, so al tashes Rasha aid, he's not allowed to be a witness because he's a Rasha. Techsiv al tashes yarcha, like it says in the pasuk. But Rava says, Ein adam nifsal le'edus behodoas piv. A person can't become disqualified for testimony through his own admission. Di adam karov eitzel atzmo, because a person is like related to himself. Hilkach, therefore, ein adam yachol losam atzmo rasha. A person can't make himself a rasha. Kilomar al edus atzmo, meaning from his own words, from his own testimony. Eino nasa rasha, he can't be considered a rasha. Sharei Torah pasla karov le'edus, because the Torah says that a karov is not allowed to testify. V'nereg karov, and so therefore, according to Rava, the Rova is going to be killed. The person who committed the act will be killed. De palgina dibura, because we can split up his words. Umehemninon le lagabe chavre, we can believe him as far as this person that this other person committed the act. V'lo mehemninon le lagabe didei, but we don't believe him as far as himself to make himself a rasha. Lifso le'edus, to disqualify the edus. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Amud Aleph.